Welcome to the Love What You Do podcast. I'm your host, Doug Shapiro. These are the conversations that open doors to what's possible when you love what you do.
Gosh, it's the calm before the storm.
Yes, here we are Sunday morning. Are we the only, there's one other person in the showroom.
Right, yeah. This is my favorite time.
It is
Or
absolutely.
Thursday morning, one of those two.
Yeah.
I already ran into Sid this morning
nice.
jogging along the Riverwalk. So everybody is beginning to ascend.
Yes, the podcasting community is super supportive community.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, when you bump into someone who knows I won't call it the struggle, but you put stuff out into the world, and sometimes you just wonder, is anyone listening?
Right. Every time. Yeah.
Every time.
And you plead, subscribe, like.
Yeah.
It means a lot. Now, you're in a new role. How long has it been?
It's been 10 months.
10 months. Okay.
Yes. So still, by my standards, that's still fresh.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that you're traveling and, it was easier before because, you were not on the road meeting reps and clients were coming in and telling the story. Now you're on the road and you've got teenagers.
Yes.
That are very active in their sports.
They are. And, I've gotten good at that. Like I have had that in the past.
Yeah.
And so I know when I've gone too far one way or the other. Usually not the other. It's usually
right.
when I'm gone too long, but I'm super conscious of it. So it's been fine. I did have a colleague tell me once, be where you are. And I thought that was one of the greatest pieces
Simple,
of advice.
But just real profound, yeah.
And it is really profound because, like there'd be times I'm like missing my family and, like I'm someplace, but like my heart is in this other place, or vice versa. You with your family,
right?
But there's a big event in New York
got stuff on
you
your
didn't
mind,
go to,
right.
or there's stuff on your mind, and he's just like, just be where you are.
Okay, so that's probably one of the biggest burnout stressors that we face in the industry. So how do you turn off something on fire over here or an urgent proposal that's got to get in or something like that? And now I've called you before, and I can tell you're at a game or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I say, okay, I get it. You're at a game. So, how do you turn off?
I have an answer for that.
Okay, I want it.
As you're saying this, like I'm thinking about what allows me to do that, to turn off. And there's a word that I think is, and I've been thinking about this word a lot, which is grace. And there's kind of like three directions of grace.
Okay.
That like I am feeling, and I haven't really put this into words yet. But
well, we are now.
We are now. What allows me to be in my work when I'm here is my wife. I know she gives me grace. I know my kids give me grace.
Wow.
When I had a game and my team has an issue and they call me and I answer and they can hear the crowd in the background, or they give me grace,
Yeah.
And then you have to give the third direction is you have to give yourself grace, and that's the part about being where you are. But I think when you don't have grace in all three directions, then it's really hard to do what you said. And so I actually think just in general, there is not enough grace given.
Man. Yeah.
Not enough grace given when you're driving on the road. Like we don't give people grace. We just assume they're all assholes. What is it? Somebody said, if anyone who's driving slower than you is an idiot, and anyone driving faster than you is a maniac. It's like
That's
road,
right. Yeah.
like no, there's no
Or if they pass you, it says, that guy passed me. Now I got to You know,
We don't
yeah,
give enough grace.
yeah.
And I think that is the key, is knowing when you've got it and then letting that relax you.
You know, so in coaching, you talk to people who are kind of at the edge, burnout or whatever. Universally, they don't have anybody in their circle that gives them grace. They only have people that make demands. So it could be the spouse or the kids and we know there's this loneliness epidemic, you know, in my groups, I'll ask, how many people could you call at 2 a.m. that are in proximity to you, not in Europe or family or whatever, they're in proximity to you, that would come and help you out.
Wow.
And we know the numbers. It's 1 to 1.5 that you have in that inner circle. That's a real deficit, and you've cultivated. So part of it is you got to cultivate it, and you've got to be relational. In other words, invest. And I'm sure you've seen colleagues that talented, but just they can't escape any place. No grace anywhere.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
the word. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's probably even a better word for it, but yeah, when you don't feel like you've got that,
Right.
oof,
Yeah.
that's tough.
Yeah. It's a burden. There's just too much weight when you look at, you know, I lived in that season, you know, 25 years ago, I lived in that season where I felt the universe gave me no grace. You know, .com crash, health wasn't the best, teenage kids demanding, close to all of that stuff. So I know there are seasons of that. But I did get through it because I had some people that gave me grace. So this is just kind of a preaching note in the podcast here.
Yeah.
Build relationships, deep friendships, find your community, find places to go outside of work so that you have that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see some of you've got so many friends, Rex, and I've seen that firsthand. Just people that are so happy for anything you do, whether it's move or, just start a.
Yeah. Part of that's been just being alive a long time.
Yeah, but it's been, I think it's your genuine interest in other people.
Well, that gets into our kind of curiosity about storytelling
Sure.
and the love what you do. Was that already a slogan here?
It was.
Okay.
It's kind of a funny thing. This happened, close to a decade ago. We were doing our DC showroom, and there was a design firm, this Gensler in DC, was working on it. And one of the designers was on a call with the JSI team and said, "Gosh, you guys just love what you do." And the CEO, Mike Elliott at the time,
Bing.
and and our VP of marketing just grabbed it.
Wow.
And they just they started to put it out there, and the more we put it out there, the more it was like, this is us, and love what you do has been the slogan. And it's kind of funny because JSI has been growing in popularity, and so
Yeah.
the slogan,
Right.
yet even though it's 8 years old, for so many it's new. And they get the T-shirt for the first time,
Right.
or they see it on the wall for the first time, and they love it because there's something in that saying that if they have it, they know how special it is, or if they don't have it, they see it and they're like, "That's what I want."
Yeah, I can remember when it kind of JSI came back on my radar about 3 years ago.
Yep.
And I walked in and said, "Whoa, this is something I didn't expect."
Yeah.
And I came out. I spent some time with both Gunlock and Kimball, so the whole wood thing is something that you can get great passion about. The uniqueness of it and just the human scale of it and the stories behind it and all of that. But layer for me some of the areas that you guys really are intentional about love what you do.
Yeah. I think if I were to put that in layers, the very foundational one is internal,
Okay.
which is
You mean like love,
I'm
like every
inside,
employee?
inside, yeah, exactly, inside the walls of JSI.
Yeah.
Like that message before you even put it on a wall, it better exist inside those walls.
So let's unpack that a little bit, because we know that 70% of people in the workplace hate what they do. They'd rather be anyplace else than work. And we know that 20% are actually working against you.
Yeah,
We call those cave dwellers, and that stands for consistently against virtually everything.
that's good.
Yeah.
I love the cave dwellers.
So how do you, just unpack.
Yeah. How do you get there?
help people love what they do?
I think the very most important thing that you can do, and this goes for any company or CEO, is a clear purpose.
Clear purpose. Okay?
Because you can't have optimism for the sake of having optimism. Like, what is it, that you're optimistic about?
Right.
I mean, if you have optimism, you have hope, you believe in something, it's easier to love what you do.
So what's that unique difference that you bring? Is that the purpose side, or the why we get up every morning?
It's funny. This is the question I wanted to ask you. So Rex,
okay.
I feel like this is not really fair.
Why?
But yeah, for I think there's a foundational piece of it, which is like, if you have a clear purpose,
Right.
you have something to be optimistic about, right?
Right.
I think the purpose comes in many layers, though. I mean, the business has a purpose. Yeah, you need your own purpose as well. And I guess this is where I hold a mirror up, Rex, and I'm like, okay, Rex, my big question to you, I feel like this has been your interview and it's not fair because I wanted the question. But, my big question was, okay, we can say love what you do,
Right.
but like, how do you get there?
Yeah.
Like, how do you, not as a business,
Right.
how do you as a person get there? Because with the people I've been interviewing, and these are people who love what they do, I'm asking them the question, well, what changes? What changed when you love what you do?
Yeah.
But the bigger question I think a lot of people have is like, well, like, am I in the right job? Am I, like, is it the company? Is it me? Is it my
Right.
situation? Like,
Right.
what do I do to get to that place where I can look on that wall, I see that sign, love what you do, and I'm like, that's me.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think people start with the wrong premise, and the premise is, I need to find something that I love doing. So research is very clear that if you're able to do what you naturally do best and develop mastery, you'll love what you do. And what that means, and we use the Clifton Strengths, but there's a variety of things I could do and still love what I do, because I'm playing to my strengths and I'm developing mastery. So the message is this, in terms of where do you find happiness? It's got to be internal. Maslow said, what you can become, you must become. Not must from it's your duty, must from you will not be happy and satisfied unless you're continually moving towards that best version of yourself. And we don't know it. Just like this Whoop strap I wear, when I first started wearing it 8 years ago, I didn't know I was burning the candle at both ends. I had suboptimized. My body suboptimizes.
Oof.
So what happens to all of us is we're in the environment, and we've adapted downwards towards that environment where we fit in, but we don't fit. And so the first thing is discovering who you are at your best. And you can take an assessment, but you can just go through experiences when you feel excited, the dopamine's going, you're getting that flow. You can start saying, well, what's behind it? Not people confuse the activity with what's really going on inside.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, we'll talk about assessment, because the Genius Spark was that assessment. For me personally, that was that assessment. That was my opportunity to understand the difference between the activities and then the actual strengths, what's going on inside,
Right.
and how much I love to include other. Like I have this piece of me that does that, and now that I know that that's a strength, I use opportunities anytime I have them to do that.
Nice.
To lean into that strength.
Yeah.
But I would have never caught that because that's not, those strengths are not the activities. Like you said, it's things going on behind. So Genius Spark, I guess, is this sort of like amalgamation of these life experiences that you want to hand over.
Yeah, 25 years of being frustrated with seeing assessments where you get kind of fragmented pieces of what it is, but not that whole picture. And you have to learn, you have to become a technical expert on whatever the assessment is. And it should be very simple. It's just a simple description of who you are at your best. So that's number one in terms of how do you find satisfaction and happiness. But number two is what you guys are doing. Clear purpose. So if you're in an organization where you know why the organization does what it does and what the benefit is and what the world would lose if we didn't show up every day to do that. And the two things are the clarity about that and the consistency in walking the talk. And the challenge with most of the organizations I work with is that they do have a mission or a purpose or whatever, but it's muddled.
Yes.
And it's not modeled. Oh, I'm going to use that. It's muddled and it's not modeled.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that.
That's good.
And it's really simple. So the three components are, can you help me tap into my natural strengths to do the job you need me to do? Am I clear as to what we're doing that's going to make the world better, that aligns with my values, what's important to me? And third, every day, does Doug walk the talk? Or one day he's walking the talk about we're all a family, and the next day he's looking at, well, we're going to lay everybody off because times are bad. And I thought we were a family. What happened?
That's a good one. I think this word muddled is actually, I think, what so many either companies or teams suffer from, or even people who are maybe trying to define themselves. And there was I don't remember where this came from, but I heard this somewhere, is never sacrifice clarity for comprehensiveness. Yeah, and I've hung on to that.
I like that.
Because I think we tried to develop very comprehensive missions that are, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to save the children.
Make it simple.
And we're going to, we're going to do that. We're going to pour back into our community, and we're going to be this and be that, and we're going to be innovative. And it's like, no, like, what are you really going to do? So like a Netflix, their mission, entertain the world.
I love it.
And I love that. It's like,
simple.
It's crystal clear.
Right.
Well,
we're going to do another alliteration. So you've got, what were the two C words?
Oh, I was going to go with muddled.
Well, you were talking about clarity.
Clarity and comprehensiveness.
Okay. Those were the two. And also, people try to be clever.
Oh, yeah.
That's the third alliteration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they try to do alliterations.
Right. So another mistake, too, is that companies that talk about the culture thing think that when leaders go away on a retreat and hire a facilitator like me and talk about what's important, it's so disconnected from who the company really is. And I like to think of culture as a garden. It's already there. It's either you've got culture, it's either by design or by default. It's either healthy or unhealthy.
It's never not there.
It's always there.
Ah.
So your job is to find out what you actually do have as a culture first. And then where do you want to take it? And then begin to weed the garden and then cultivate. That's what we learned when we
Wow.
moved down to River Rose.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was just full of invasive species and weeds and all that stuff.
So, I mean, what a symbolic sort of
Oh
journey.
yeah, right.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, it is wild. So tell me about where you're headed with this whole love what you do and the story. So you showed me, nobody's in the showroom except you and I.
Yeah, it's just us hanging.
Yeah. And so you showed me some of the wood heritage
Yeah.
and the whole idea of heritage and next generation. And when was that first factory built? 1870?
1876.
My goodness.
So like I think about it in different ways, but one is this, like because I this has been on my mind a lot. If I gave you a penny, you'd be like, thanks for the penny. I don't know, throw it over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Right? But if I gave you a penny and I said, hey, this penny was a penny that my great grandfather used for a down payment
Oh, wow.
on a ring,
Oh, wow.
and you would hold that penny and you'd be like, I have something special here.
Yeah.
This is not just a penny. And that's what I think we know we have in our hands. Like this company has meant so much to so many people, families, to the Jasper community for 150 years. Next year will be 150 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And I just got goosebumps. Okay. I literally just got goosebumps. I think about all the people that worked so hard, that cared, that handed something over better.
Yeah.
That handed something over better. That
Right.
handed something over better. And now it's here, like it's in my hands. Like I'm holding this penny. And what am I going to do with this penny? And so that's the feeling. It's not just a penny. It's not just
Right.
a company. And I think that is why history matters. And so now this is a responsibility. And I feel like I'm a part of it. And I care about that community. My kids were all born there, I care about the community.
Wow. I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, they were all born in Jasper. So, you know what? And it sounds very self-serving, like, to hand this business over to the next generation, which will be largely Jasper. I mean, yes, we have people all over the world that have
Sure.
our products and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
But it's okay that it's a bit self-serving, because in the end, if our purpose is to build something better for the next generation, that's a long-term view.
Right.
It's not a quarterly objective. It's a long-term view. And when you have a long-term view, you make better decisions. You do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, what is inherently different about our company is this long-term point of view. Because I don't think there's a lot of people that can say that that's the filter for every major decision.
And so it's a shift in management. The Greek word for management is steward. It's oikos.
Huh.
So it's steward. And that's what I'm hearing you talk about. It also fits too with sustainability, and, there's economic sustainability. There's the forest that you have to cultivate and all of that. So you guys are stewards. It's also interesting too that in the beginning you talked about the focus on AI. So it's got to be future focused as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that Mike, our CEO, really brings to the company is, yes, there is a deep respect for heritage, and that we do have something special, but that is what's driving him to invest in AI, to be so future focused, because the world is changing fast. If you don't stay with it, we're going to be like so many other furniture companies or manufacturing
Right.
towns in the U.S.
Where somebody comes in and
had no vision,
right,
no connection to
you're
how
just
the world's changing.
another piece to the conglomerate. Yeah. I don't know who's interviewing who in this one, but what I want to talk about is how do we change the story that our industry is stuck in? I'm so tired
Oh man.
of going round, and it really does feel like we have no imaginative margin
Huh.
to think possibility. We're so constrained when we see, and when I talk to groups or audiences, one of the first questions are, give me something for some quick wins. And it tells me, oh my gosh, we're just wanting to check some boxes,
Yeah.
get through the day, make it a little bit better. And we're in this historic moment where the whole communication platform has shifted. And we've only seen anything like this 500 years ago when the printing press came.
Yeah.
And there was 150 years of revolution, and kingdoms were overthrown and mercantilism went away, and we saw our first schools come and capitalism came in. And then at the Treaty of Westphalia was the first nation state, the first idea of a nation built on a concept. That's what the printing press did. Gave us the idea that you could build a country based on an idea. It was never thought of before, nothing ever. And so we look at all the old stuff that had to be thrown out, and the revolution and the disruption. And Clay Shirky, who's a professor up at NYU, says he thinks it's going to be, 50 years of upheaval, revolution on a global scale.
Wow.
So how do we begin crafting the story of that better future? What are you guys working on?
Oh my gosh, Rex, this is such a huge question.
Well, it's what I wonder about. And I know that's you. You've kind of, do you know who Rory Sutherland is?
I know the name, yeah.
Okay, he's the guy, I think it's BDO or advertising, but he's the reframer. So we're in this moment of having to reframe our story for different purpose, different meaning type of thing. And you are, I consider to be kind of the Rory Sutherland of the industry, the storyteller that's reframing. You're not really looking at this. What you're looking at is really something bigger over here type of story.
Rex, I mean, I don't mean to dodge this, okay? You wrote a book, Humanizing the Education Machine.
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, you
Right.
look at systems,
Right.
and you see patterns. This is on your mind.
All the time.
I'm more interested in your perspective than mine because I don't know, Rex. I'm just going to be vulnerable here. I don't know.
I think it's as simple as start the conversation. So here's what I run into all the time. People feel like their hands are tied. They got budgets, they've got typicals, they've got standards, they've been told what to buy, by the time it gets down. But I was in that mode, that desperation job that we sold and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All I did is get together with people who were equally frustrated than I was. And I said, are you as frustrated with the way projects get delivered the way I am? And I got stories like, Dean Strombum with Gensler, principal at Gensler.
Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Retired.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Congrats, Dean.
But, he said, you know what? We spend more time double checking and handling claims and stuff like that. And our best energy and effort isn't towards creating a great solution. Dick Hayworth said it's a shame that by the end of the process, we're not doing our best work for the client. Les Shepard, who was at that time the chief architect for GSA when I was in his office, he didn't know who I was. And it was kind of the Wizard of Oz chamber at the GSA, this long marble thing into his office. I waited, 40 minutes past what our time was. And he said, I got 15 minutes to talk to you. What is it? 90 minutes later, he said, if you can help me figure out how to deliver a courthouse in faster than 7 years, I want part of this conversation.
Wow.
Start with what people are frustrated with. even in your own office, and just start learning together.
So, I mean, what is there a process to this? Because I mean, you've done this, like you've gathered parties
I
together.
do have a process.
I was going to say this is what you do. You uncover these things for
Yeah, but
groups
anybody
of
can do it,
people.
really. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And it's really just, you go on a learning journey with people. This is something we're not happy with in our company, right? And so they get together. Maybe it's the way the tool shed is organized. Maybe it's the way the break room is. And a bunch of people get together and say, well, what could we do better?
Yeah.
It's a lean process, right? Whatever bugs you, get some people together and figure out how to get that. But we're so robotic in what we do.
Yeah.
The first place the humanizing has to come is we have to take agency and say, I'm not the victim. There's probably other people that feel the way I do. Let's go find some of those people, get a conversation going, and then change from there. That's the way all change works. And we need more people who feel like they can make a difference. And I just see a lack of that out there, where people are keeping their heads low or trying to get through the week.
Yeah.
And that's got to be a miserable life to do that.
You are a hard charger, Rex, and you go for it. I mean, you say it. Whatever it is you want to say, you say it.
I'm 70. There's advantages to that. There was a time where I may have been more circumspect with that, but
Sure.
yeah, I've only got a little bit more runway to leave that deposit. Yeah. So how do we want to land the plane here?
I guess first, just where do we find you? Let's just say you've got your podcast rolling, right?
Right. Yeah.
The Resilience Lab. LinkedIn's probably your best channel, right? to
LinkedIn
reach
is
you.
best channel. Right.
Awesome. Whose podcast is this going on? Is this going on? I love what you do.
Maybe it's going to be on both.
It's going to be on both is
Right,
the answer,
yeah,
right?
right.
Thanks for joining me here on Love What You Do.